quickly put it in the chat group right over there. It could be one word, you could put in a sentence. I would like to know from all of you, what were some of the challenges you faced? Nervous, okay. Yes, I was nervous too, even though I'm a public speaking trainer. Thank you so much for that. Staging, engaging with audience. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Eddie. Grab audience attention. Thank you, Ai. Noverto, thank you. Camera quality, background, yes. Connection, yes. Controlling gestures, yes. Forget to look straight to the camera, yes. Correct. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you, Vidodo. Ernie, confuse how to attract people so that they can focus. Yes, Ernie, I had the same problem. Connection signal, yes, correct. Just want to be silent. Aha, yes. How many of us want to be silent, right? Sometimes even I don't turn my camera on just because I know they're going to call me to speak. So even though I'm a public speaking trainer, can you imagine even I had those issues? Like, how are you supposed to talk to a camera and a machine, right? That's what runs in your head when you're talking. And I'll get into that towards my presentation. Sorry, Mr. Yogesh, I forgot to turn off the caps lock. Oh, okay, don't worry about that. We all make those mistakes, okay? Fear of being judged. Okay, if you're a Toastmaster and TM Gustika and you're the Tom of the evening, I don't believe you're afraid of being judged at the moment. So yeah, maybe back then you had those challenges, but some of you have overcome them, and some of you are still having a lot of anxiety and, trouble facing the camera. So for me, it was challenging because my work involves public speaking, and then suddenly I had to stop teaching because public speaking was face-to-face. Even the schools I was teaching in, they were like, we'll just stop all the activities for now. So for like 1 month, I had 1 month, 2 months, I had no work. And immediately after that, we had the contest, the division contest, because the division contest was supposed to be face-to-face. And the very last minute, it got canceled. As soon as Jakarta came in a lockdown, they decided not to have the division contest. And then they decided all the way in May to have the division contest. So till then, I had no work. I had not faced the camera. And our TM meetings were also online, but everybody was still getting hang of Zoom. And there was the question, should we use Zoom? Should we use Microsoft? But it started going. But I was very uncomfortable. So this is something I want to share with you. So if you're feeling uncomfortable, you can imagine me, a public speaking trainer, feeling uncomfortable in front of the camera, okay? Then we had the division contest, and then we had a trial run with the whole contest group. And what we realized in that was that there were some issues about facing the camera and how we should face the camera and how everything should be. So this takes me to the second part of my presentation. Originally, I was planning to show you guys a PowerPoint, but I realized that it would take away the whole meaning of today's presentation, because I was told by TM Dajon, am I pronouncing your name correct? Because yeah, okay, that we want to have tips on how do you speak in front of the camera. So I felt that putting a PowerPoint up would just make no sense because you'd be focusing on the PowerPoint, not on me, So here you can see I'm sitting in my room, and right now you cannot tell because you cannot see the back side or the left or right? And I'm sitting on my wife's dressing table. So I've pretty much hijacked my wife's dressing table. It's become my office for the last 8 months. And over here is all her perfumes and stuff, photos and stuff, Over here is my calendar, and behind is pencils, pen, and a huge mirror. But you cannot see that, okay? So that's the beauty of having a camera just on the front side. And I will now tell you a methodology for all of you. Now, this methodology for speaking is called LCA. It's called the LCA methodology, and I'll break it down for you and I'll make it very easy for all of you to understand, okay? So the first part to the LCA methodology is lights, okay? The first part is lights. So when we were practicing for the division contest, our district director He's like, Yogesh, your lighting is not very correct. It's very dark and dull, and we need you to, spice it up. So you guys will have to just excuse me for a second. I'm going to go turn on my light to show you what it looked like as soon as I turned on the light. So I used this orange light during the division contest. And after the division contest, when I saw my video, I was not too happy. I was not too happy with it. So the first thing you need to make sure is your lighting is correct. Okay? The thing was with the orange light was I was giving the contest in the evening. So I know all of you, many of you already probably have a backlight, right? Some of you have already bought a backlight. I know TM Rana, she does a lot of podcasts. She invited me on her podcast after I won the district contest. She has correct lighting and stuff. Some of you use the virtual background, right? To make it look more beautiful. But remember one thing, in a contest, you cannot use a virtual background. Okay? You cannot use a virtual background. And for me, my camera, not this one, my other camera on my other laptop was not so clear. So I cannot really use a virtual background unless I have a green screen at the back. But thankfully, my walls are plain. So our district director said, if the background is plain, it's even better. And you got to make sure the lighting is facing you. So I used this orange light during the contest. However, it was in the evening. So I was a little lucky with that. But still, I was not too happy with the final video because it seemed that it was still very dark. Even though I was visible, I was not too happy with it. So the one thing you got to first make sure is about your lighting. Okay, guys? So here was the second issue about lighting. If you can see, I'm sitting next to my window, right? So normally, many of us sit next to our windows. So the contest was in the afternoon at noontime. So I turned this on, and I didn't have the orange light on. It's on right now. So if you notice, there's like I'm half bright, I'm half not bright. And this was an issue for me during the contest. So I here, and if you can see, it's more brighter now. Not really use the orange light. So if you are in a situation where your lighting is not so good, and if you have the option of using the sunlight, it will be better. But again, I had another issue because you can see this wall, right? This wall is in the way. So I said to myself, okay, maybe I should just turn the whole thing and face the light. But then when you face the light, you can see the whole room at the background. And I was like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? My face is very clear now, correct? Because I'm facing the window. So whenever you're having your meetings, it's always best to face contest. If it's a contest, this is not the right background. So I had to figure out what to do. And the first thing I did was I realized I had a very big table next to my bed. I had a very big table next to my bed. And so I removed everything from laptops. I removed my files, my books. And now I'm going to move my laptop to show you how it is. Now can you see me? Right? Now the lighting is fine because I moved away from the window and I used this elevated table to be able to be seen properly. Now see, it's still very dark. I know you cannot see me. So I turned my white light on. I off the orange light and I turned the white light on. That was the dressing table light. Now the lighting is clear. Can you see me much better? And at the same time, the body is seen. While in the dressing table, I had to adjust my camera a lot, which takes me to the second part of my presentation is camera. The L was for lights. The second is for camera. When I was at the dressing table, you'll have to excuse me, I'll take this back. When I was at the dressing table and I had to deliver my speech, the camera was not correct. So what I did, I put a lot of shoe boxes at the back and I put my laptop up there for the division contest. And that worked for the division contest, but when I had the lighting issue, I had to make sure you cannot look down on the camera. You have to make sure it's at the level if you're in a TM meeting, but if you're in a contest, you have to make sure your body is seen. So when I did the division contest, I put the camera all the way back at the dressing table and I had my space to do the contest. But because of the lighting in the daytime, I realized I needed to move my camera in a better position. And I was very lucky to have this table because it gave me more space to speak in my room. And that made it better. Your camera angle is very important. You cannot be looking down on the camera, or you cannot have it in the sense that, look, if I bring it in the front, right, my head is chopped off, right? And my head is the highlight of my speeches. I'm just kidding, yeah? But the point is, when I moved it back, I adjusted it and I tested it. Then I had the perfect space. On the dressing table side, my stage was limited, which takes me to the third part of my presentation after lights and camera is action, right? Now, how do we have the action? The action is the body language. And here is my stage. So how are you supposed to be in front of the camera when you are competing? And many of the speakers forget that not just you have to look at the camera, right? I'm looking at all of you. I'm looking straight into the camera and talking. You also have to realize you have to utilize the little bit of space you have. This is your stage, ladies and gentlemen. And because I spoke earlier about the camera angle, I put it in such a way that you can see me, you can see more space, and I have a gap to walk, right? So when I want to walk, I can walk in front of the camera, or I can walk at back, or I can be at the center. Because if you see my speech, and I will send you a link to my speech, you will see that in my speech, there's a part where I say, as I looked back at my life, and I walked backwards, I gave myself that little space to walk backwards because the judges are watching every single move you do. Okay? So I gave myself that space to play with my stage. Now, how many of you have seen my speech? A quick raise of hands. How many of you have seen my speech from last year's district contest? 1, 2. Okay, 3, 4. Okay, I'm just quickly scanning on the top because I don't have gallery view right now. Like I said, some of you have seen my speech. And if you remember my speech, I started like this. I left my house with the most motivating, uplifting, encouraging words from my wife. Get out! Right? That's what I said. So what did I do? I utilized the stage accordingly. I moved here. I built my wife's character over here. And that's something I want you to do for those of you who are going to do future speeches, not just competing in the contest. I know not all of you want to compete in the contest, but some of you will. And some of you for your speeches online, use your stage carefully. Now, because I put my wife here and I asked myself to get out, what did I build over here? I built the character of my wife. I also made this my apartment, right? Because in my speech, I was kicked out of my apartment. And one more thing is, have you noticed? I moved here. And I've not done this speech since last year, May, but I still remember my stage movement. And am I going across to the wrong side? No, right? So you have to realize that this is your stage and you have to utilize the stage very carefully. Now, in my speech, what do? I said I went home and I apologized to my wife, and then I walked here. And then I talk about how I transformed and I started pushing myself towards my goals, right? And I talk about the future. So again, what do? I walked here. I came from there to here. I'm more forward, okay? So use your stage very carefully when you are preparing your speeches. I understand some of you don't have too much space at home. Especially some of you have children, or there's other disturbances, or you're in the office, or you have a chair. Whatever little you have, make full use of it. Last year's world champion was very smart. I was watching his video, and what he did, he actually went all the way like this in his speech, and he went like this. And even though he was limited, he went out of the box to use the square. So this square is your stage, ladies and gentlemen. You have to use it carefully. Now, I was doing a 15-minute presentation, which is very similar to the presentation I'm doing today for a group of Malaysians. And in that, we spoke about how in front of the camera, when we're speaking, we have a lot of issues. Now, some of you mentioned in the comments earlier that you felt nervous. How do you talk to the camera, right? Because it's not a live audience, right? And believe me, for me, it's the hardest because I don't know if my audience is laughing. I don't know if the joke worked. I don't know, should I pause? Are they laughing? Should I pause? What should I do? I don't have a clue about that. And that's why you need to practice your speech in front of an audience. Then 2 nights before the district contest, I was invited by SCBD Toastmasters Club, and I practiced my speech to see who was laughing, who was not. So mentally, I knew I must give a 2-second or 3-second gap. And I'll tell you one thing, I have a challenge to do speeches because my speeches are usually 1,000 words. I have a very big challenge to keep my speech short, but I am a fast speaker. I'm a very fast speaker. My speeches end, that speech from last year was ending at 5 minutes, 6 minutes, somewhere there. But last year, I went slow. Remember, online is more difficult because even after the contest, when I started teaching again in the summer holidays, kids were free, they had more time, I realized I cannot take 10 students in a class. I can only take 5. And even with those 5 students, 90 minutes, and sometimes I'm not done with my class. While I had 23 students in Binus Simpruk. Can you imagine? 23 students offline, but online I can take only 5. So challenging thing it is, right, when you're speaking. So when you're speaking in front of the camera, you have to make sure you're going a bit slower. I checked my time. I was 7 minutes, 27 seconds. I was 3 seconds away from disqualification. I told you I have a very challenging time trying to keep it short because a fast speaker suddenly has to slow down, okay? So, again, I'm still in the action part of the third part of the presentation. Now, here's the big challenge. Anybody heard of the Dr. Albert Meridian's graph about public speaking? Have you guys heard of that? No one? Okay, so this he came up with this methodologies many years ago that when we are public speaking, the audience listens to only 7% of what we say, 7% of our words, 38% of our voice, and 55% of our body language. Okay? However, here's my theory to you, ladies and gentlemen. My theory is the other way around. Okay? The body language is probably 30%. Your voice is 60%. And your words
is 10%. Why do I say the voice? Because when you are talking to a machine, I'm limited here, right? I'm limited here to my body language, right? I can do the hand gestures, facial expressions, but it's not the same as it is when you are live. So what elevates the audience is your voice. Now here's what I did before last year's contest. I put on my AirPods for my laptop and I practiced with it. But when I recorded myself and I went back and heard it, I didn't like the voice. I'm not saying it was not loud, but when I spoke like this to the microphone instead of this was way better. So I realized I had to make sure that my voice is projected properly. I'm actually a good meter away from the laptop right now. Can you hear me clearly, all of you? Raise your hands if you can. Right? Thank you. Yeah. Your voice is the most important element when you are speaking in front of your camera. Now here's the dilemma, right? Some of you still feel you're talking to a machine, right? And today morning I was talking to a friend in the UK, and he's a life coach. We together are taking the life coaching certification starting tonight midnight. Because in America it's morning, for me it's midnight. So he did a 20-minute video and he called me and he said, can you give me feedback? And I was looking at his video and he was hesitating talking to the camera. And I told him, I want you to take a photo of your best friend, okay? I want you to print it out and I want you to stick it behind the laptop. Ladies and gentlemen, when you look at your laptop or your computer or your webcam, don't think of it as a machine. Think of it as if you're speaking to your best friend. Okay? Think of it as if you're speaking to your best friend. I don't have an audience right now, right? What I mean is, my audience is right in front of me in the camera and the laptop. There's so many other distractions, okay? And it's more difficult. I researched online, the attention span of a human being online is 5 minutes. 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Our attention span online. Offline is 10 minutes. It's cut down to half. So how do you keep your audience on is you have to engage, right? Obviously, in a contest, I cannot ask you questions. I cannot hear your laughter. So your voice projects it all. Like right now, if I have to describe my room to you, okay, all my clothes are on my bed and all the diaries and books, my calendar, my medicines, right? Distracting, isn't it? But I look here and I say, I'm talking to my best friend. All of you are my best friends. That's how I project onto the camera. I don't look at this camera as a machine. And your body language, of course, is important when you're in the contest and when you're giving speeches, but your voice is everything. I'm sorry, I cannot see the timer. I'm on time.
Yes, sorry, 24 minutes, Yogesh.
Okay, I wanted to show you the video from last year, but I'll just leave the link for you to watch because I want to quickly do Q&A with you guys. And at the end of my speech, I looked at the camera, I came front, and I said, "Get out!" And when I did that, the contest chair said to me she got scared. So you understand how important your voice is? Like just now when I said, "Get out," some of you might have panicked or like, "Oh my God, what's he doing?" Right? But your voice, don't forget, your voice is very important for those of you that are going to be in the contest or are going to be speaking. Okay? So that's it. I just have a quick recap. Lights, make sure your lighting is correct. Camera, speak to the camera, make sure it's elevated. You can see the stage. And action. Action is not just how you position yourself, but also your voice. So LCA, remember these 3 letters, that's the methodology, or if you remember lights, camera, action, that is it. And now I open the floor for Q&A.